I'd like to introduce again our Senator Rick Scott from here in Naples.
Okay. Thank you. First off, thank you for your hard work. We had a great election. If we had done everything like what y'all did in Florida around the country, we would have had a totally different result Tuesday night. So thank you for what you did here, because you made a big difference in making sure we got the House back. And I still believe we have a good chance to get in the Senate. Just to give you an update on the Senate races, Adam Laxalt's still up. He believes that there's not enough votes out for him to lose, so hopefully that'll be our 50th. Blake Master believes there's enough votes out for him to win. He'll have to get a little over 60% of the votes left. But Election Day, he did really well. So and they think a lot of these votes are going to be Election Day votes, so that would be nice. And then, of course, we got the runoff in Georgia with Herschel Walker. So which I think we're going to win, because the difference between now and 2 years ago is we have defined Warnock. 2 years ago, nobody went in and did any ads before the November election because there was somewhat of a primary. There was a primary basically between Doug Collins and Kelly Loeffler. I run the Senate committee. From the first day I took over after the Georgia runoffs 2 years ago, we defined Warnock. So his approval rating is now down to 40. We explained who he was, that he's a guy that votes with Biden and Schumer 100% of the time. He's not treated his wife well, and he runs the same church that Martin Luther King was at. And they have an apartment complex that if you're $28 behind in your rent, you're kicked out. Didn't seem like the right thing to do. So I think we're gonna win there. It's gonna be a lot of work. So we'll win. Hopefully we'll get 51 or 52 December 6th. So. We're here to talk about veterans, and I'll just give you a few stories. I'm very appreciative of all veterans. I like the freedoms that we each get to live under. I've been around the world. I've gone watched what's going on in Venezuela and Cuba and Nicaragua and China and places like that. And it's not a place where you want to live. You're not a place where you want your kids to get stuck or your grandkids to get stuck. We won't have these freedoms if we don't have veterans. If we don't have people that are willing to serve in the military, this is over. It was a great experiment that we had, but it's over. Because the only reason we have these is because the bad guys, Russia and China and Iran and North Korea and Cuba and Nicaragua and Venezuela, they fear our military. When they stop fearing our military, it's over. There are people around the world that believe they want to control the world. The only thing that stops them is our military. It's the only thing that stops them. We've got a lot of people overseas right now, in Europe especially. They're trying to make sure that NATO is not invaded. And thank God they're there. Thank God that our military is doing all the things they're doing to support the people in the military in Ukraine. So hopefully we'll win there and stop Putin. But if not, if he invades any of our NATO allies, we're in another world war. And the only way that's going to stop is if we deter him. So my experience is I don't know my dad, but I know I have an adopted dad, and I knew he served in the military, but I didn't really know that much about him. But as our daughters were born, I had him tell stories, and he didn't want to talk about his military experience. And the longer I always tried to get him to talk more and more. But here's what I learned. Here's a guy that probably like Charlie joined it. I think he lied about his age. I think he got in around 16. There's only 3,000 people that did all 4 combat jumps with the 82nd Airborne. There were 4 combat jumps in the Second World War, into Sicily, into Salerno, into Normandy, and in Market Garden in Holland. There's only 3,000 people who did that. He didn't just do those, but he also did Battle of the Bulge, which was the 3rd deadliest battle in Europe. So he believes that about 8 out of the 80 people that went over with him came back alive. It's a terrible time. It's totally different expectation than what we have today. Everybody that has a child or a grandchild in the military, you believe they're going to come home. That was actually not the case back then. So here's one of the neat days of my life, my daughter was over in France. She was dating a young man who she eventually married that Her father's family was from France, and they went to St. Mary Glace, where the 82nd Airborne parachuted in. She found a museum there, primarily for the 82nd Airborne. 17% of his company died right there. 17%. Can you imagine today? 17% died. So what they went through is unbelievable. He told me how bad the foxholes were, the food, the Germans. So I joined the Navy. I didn't hear of any foxholes in the Navy, and I joined in Kansas City. And it was I had a great experience in the military. I actually swabbed the decks quite a bit. But here's the difference between what the military was like then and now. When I was in the military, it was the tail end of Vietnam. I didn't go to Vietnam. You could not wear a uniform off base. If you wanted to get a job and you had served, it didn't help you, it hurt you. It's hard to believe. The people that served in Vietnam were never well thought of. I mean, it's by our society. It was horrible. So I'm very proud of what my dad did. When I became governor, they found a rifle from his company. And so I was able to buy that rifle, and I have it displayed in my office. There's not a lot of weapons probably in the Capitol. So I took out the firing pin. But I'm very appreciative of what they did. So as governor, what I tried to do is make sure we did everything we could to support our veterans. So when I was governor, I created a medal for everything. I like medals. I like recognizing people for things. So we created a medal, the Governor's Veterans Medal, and my wife and I passed out individually 15,000 medals. There are so many Vietnam War veterans that had never, ever been thanked. They came up and they cried because no one in their entire life had ever thanked them for their service. Now, every Marine did come up and tell me that they were the men's division of the Navy. And they all wore red, every one of them, I think. But it was a great experience. So, and then what we did was we tried to, here's what's some of the hard things you try to do. We have a state Veterans Administration, but what's hard is you're trying to do everything you can to provide all the benefits. And what we did was we tried to make sure this is the state you want to be a veteran. So we went through every issue to try to make it a better place to be a veteran, whether it was tuition or housing or taxes, everything we could. And if you're on active service, we helped you with get licenses, or when you got out, you immediately got your license, all these things. So we became, by just doing chip, a bunch of things, we became what most people would say is the #1 state for a veteran in the country. And we have about 1.6 million veterans in the state. Now, up in D.C., I'm on Armed Services Committee. So I'm on 5 committees. I can't tell you that I would brag about how your federal government working right now, because you can't. But the one committee that actually does some good is Armed Services. It's the 2 guys that have been running it. One of them is retiring. It was they worked well together. But there's a lot of wokeness right now in the military. I was just talking to a guy the other day that just got out, and he said that he was on a ship that was following the new Chinese aircraft carrier, and he got a cable. That day they had to stop and do transgender training for 2 hours. So it does bother you that we have all these unbelievable men and women that want to serve and do serve, and then our leadership is trying to change things. One of the nicest things I get to do is I get to nominate 10 people for each of the academies each year. And we just did it this week. And if you want to be optimistic, like right now, you can watch the elections and you can be down a little bit because we didn't get the result we wanted. But if you want to feel good, go talk to the people that just got nominated and just interview these young people that want to go. I mean, they're hell-bent on doing a good job and defending the freedom of this country. They believe in it. They've got great backgrounds. It's interesting to listen to. We have these panels that interview a lot of people. The difference between who's going to the Air Force Academy and who's going to the Navy and who's going to the Army and Merchant Marine. They're different. But they're all positive. There's so what they tell me at least is it's all the nerds are going to the Air Force. So a lot of really smart math kids are going there. So let me tell you the last story. Last story is my grandson. I don't know why I've talked about the military a lot, but I have one that turned 11 today. His name's August. He is hell bent on being in the military. He's always wanted to be in the military. So when Trump got elected, I was going to meet him at the tarmac one time, and so I said, "Do you want to meet the president?" He has no idea. He's 5 years old. Who idea the president is? I said, "He's the top general in the world. All in." And so I have a picture of him, 5 years old, when Trump comes down Air Force One, saluting the president. He thinks he's saluting the top general in the world, which, if you're the commander in chief, you are, right? I'm absolutely, I'm hell bent on making sure this is the country where you want to be active military and you want to be a veteran. So whether it's on services, we're trying to make their housing better, their pay better, their medical benefits better. We're trying to do that for our active. With regard to our veterans, we're trying to make sure they get the whatever program that we have, they get their benefits. Aaron, if you'll stand up so people know who you are. This is Aaron Deaver. We have the way this, the way the Senate works is they give me a budget. My budget is a little over $5 million. It's a little bit, from a bigger state, you get more of a budget to create more offices. So I have 9 offices in the state. And their job is whatever if you have a federal issue, that's their job. If you're dealing with the VA, which to me seems like a black hole, it's very difficult to deal with. They have to talk to us. If you have passport issues or visa issues or immigration issues or Medicare issues or just name it, that's our job. And we just got, not me, they did. They just got an award as the best constituent services offices in the country. So thank you. It wasn't me. It was so we've got 9 offices around, and they all do a great job. So that if you need something, I can't solve any problems I don't know about. Just think about it that way. So, and I tried to get this job. I tried hard to get this job 3 times, and it worked so far. But be vocal. This is my job, is to try to solve problems. And the way I've always thought about it when I was governor and in this job is, if I solve the problem, or Aaron does, or any of us solve it, we solve it for a lot of people. So that's what we're trying to do. So with that, I think somebody's going to do Q&A. Yeah. So.
Senator Scott has agreed to take some questions.
Only the ones I'd like to answer, though.
So please raise your hand if you have a question. Oh, Leslie. We have a microphone.
Senator Scott, thank you so much for being here. We so appreciate your being here with us. My question is, how can we assist the people in Cuba and Venezuela in their quest for democratic freedom?
So if you follow what's going on in Cuba, right now, there's been an unbelievable crackdown. Last July 11th, a year ago, they finally had some protests. The problem you have is what we have to do as a country, and what our senior leadership has to do as a country, is we have to talk about the problems and be the beacon of hope, right? And then when, just like what's going on in Iran now, when Obama didn't stand up or show up when they were having protests, we got to talk about it. We have the same problem with Biden. So what we need to do is we need to hold the Castro regime and the Maduro regime accountable, and then when their citizens are willing to show up, because it's risky, we have to be vocal about it. So right now there's about 1,400 peaceful protesters from July 11th, 2021 in prison, some as young as 14, and they're basically being tortured to kill them. So I can't get the Biden administration to say a word. I called the White House December a year ago, and they hung up on me. They don't want to do. They're not doing any of this stuff. I've been down to the border of Venezuela and to Cucuta to highlight the problems, because in this job you can highlight problems. But the Biden administration doesn't want to do anything. They actually have released sanctions on the Maduro family. They're now trying to work with the Venezuelan regime to get oil. They don't want to drill it here, but they want to drill it there. I mean, the craziest thing in the world. So I think what we have to do is, talk about the problem and tell stories about it. What I tell Guaido down in Venezuela, when I talk to any of these leaders, when I've been over to Hong Kong to work with other protesters, is we've got to tell people the stories. And then what you guys have to do is do everything you can to get that out. Because the more we talk about what they're doing, there's a greater chance the world community will do something. I was in Poland, Lithuania in, I think it's March. I was talking to some people in Parliament. Lithuania is the only member of the EU that's actually stood up to the Castro regime. And because they stood up, they stopped the European Union from doing more business with Cuba. And so I went over there to thank them. But I met with political leaders in Poland, had no idea. Just no idea what's going on in Cuba. And they're going on vacation there. It's crazy.
I saw a hand up over by Leslie, Ema Rad.
Thank you, Senator. Hi, I'm an Iranian American, and I have a question about Iran. With revolution growing in Iran, is there any opportunity to drive regime change in Tehran, please?
I think the only way we're going to get regime change is, one, we have to highlight what's happening to the peaceful protesters. We have to tell people. I mean, if a lady that doesn't wear the right scarf is murdered, just murdered. How old was she? 22 years old, something like that? Just murdered because she didn't wear a headscarf. I mean, oh yeah. I mean, just murdered. This is crazy. Everybody's got to know this stuff. And we got to talk about it. We got to get, unfortunately, the Biden administration doesn't say a word. So they don't say a word about anything. So, and then the other thing is we got to be vocal. We can't go back into the Iran deal. And we got to be vocal that we got to keep the sanctions. You give more money to the Ayatollah, they're going to do more bad stuff. They're causing all the problems in Lebanon with Hezbollah, okay, and in the Gaza Strip. It's with money that we gave them under the Obama administration. They want to give them more money when they didn't do the right thing. So the only way this is going to happen is if we're vocal. So far, Biden's had 2 years now. He hasn't done the Iran deal yet. It's because people are vocal. Like I'm very vocal about how bad the deal is. I'm very vocal about what's happening to the protesters. We all have to do that. And the more they hear, if the Biden administration hears that we care, they won't do something foolish. It's horrible what's going on. You look at what's going on in Russia and Iran and Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, North Korea, China. I mean, it's horrible. Think about this. Communist China took away all the basic rights of the Hong Kong citizens, and nobody said a word. You don't think they're going to try to do something in Taiwan?
I saw a hand over here. Carol.
Hey, Carol.
Hey, how are you? You mentioned the drilling in Venezuela. I'd like to know what the Republican plan to restore energy independence and what steps our Congress is going to take.
Well, first off, if you don't want to be energy independent, you don't care about poor people. Stop and think about it this way. If you're any place where you don't have electricity, do you think preemies are living? No. Without electricity, they die. Okay? Think about it, if any place, and that's around the world, but if you look at even in this country, places where people can't afford their heating oil, things like that. I was just campaigning up in New Hampshire. They're lending money to pay for heating oil right now in New Hampshire because it's gone up so much. So you borrow money to put heating oil, and then you pay it off, I guess, in the summer. This is the craziest thing in the world. So we've got to figure out, the reason we are where we are is because we have less expensive oil and gas and energy costs than other places in the world. That's it. I mean, we got smart people, we have all this stuff. They have smart people too. If we don't have inexpensive energy costs, we don't have an economy. And then by the way, we have no opportunity for people to get out of poverty. So what we've done is, one, we have to be vocal about it. But then what we've done is we have bills that will be difficult to pass, even if we're in a majority, but we got to work on it to make it easier, okay, to get a permit. Make it, so the Biden administration, they really want to shut down all of our energy. I mean, the craziest thing in the world. I'll tell you how bad. So this, on Armed Services Committee, it's in the bill, by the way, all right, for the National Defense Authorization Act. All of our non-military vehicles on our bases have to be in the United States. I don't know if it's overseas too, have to be electric. Now, I mean, don't worry, the grid will never go down, right? Right. So I did an amendment that said, yeah, we can do that, but not if any of the electricity is created by fossil fuels. That's logical, right? Oh, it failed. I mean, it's crazy what we're doing right now. But not having cheap oil and gas is foolish. It's just foolish. We're hurting ourselves. And so we've got to, what I always thought about in my elections is, it's win. What's important now, right? I mean, your livelihood is about the most important thing. Getting people a job, making sure people can survive financially is about the most important thing. And then it's education, then it's public safety, all these things. But heating, less expensive energy is a whole economy. We cannot compete if we don't. This idea of shutting it all down is crazy.
Oh, I saw a hand over there. Katie Reese.
Oh.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We are inspired by everything that you say to us. So, despite President Xi's pledge to stop the flow of fentanyl to the United States, which he made years ago at the G20 summit, the poisoning of our people still continues. What steps can be taken to stop the flow of such horrible drugs?
Well, the question is, so here's the deal. Here's what's happened. The border's open. Okay? Mayorkas is a liar. All right? He comes to the committee and says, the border's secure. I said to him, you're the only person in America who believes that. So it's intentional for whatever reason. It's intentional. They want an open border. Okay? Fentanyl is pouring across. We're collecting, think about what we haven't collected, but we're catching enough fentanyl to kill billions of people every year. I think just in the last 12 months, we got enough fentanyl that we found to kill 2.5 billion people. All right, and everybody thinks, oh, it's these drug addicts. No. All right, what it is, it's your kid or your grandkid that, somehow got a Xanax online. All right, they shouldn't have done it. It's the wrong thing to do. But one Xanax, you're dead. So we have, and I have 7 grandkids. All the ones that are, old enough, just like on Halloween. Every time I talk to them, I said, you cannot take a piece of candy from anybody you don't know. I mean, this is intentional. China wants to kill us. By the way, if you buy another product from China, you are supporting that regime. Nothing. We have to buy nothing from China. Nothing. And we cannot be dependent on them for anything. I have a bill that Amazon is blocking that said that everything sold online will have to be disclosed country of origin. So The only way we're going to get this fentanyl stopped is we got to get a secure border. The only way to get a secure border is you got to elect Republicans that care about a secure border. So it's not that hard to do, right? You finish, construction of the wall, the technology. You have the, where you remain in Mexico. It's not, apply our asylum laws like they're supposed to work. I mean, this is what we're doing is foolish. I mean, I'll give you a story. This is how your federal government's working right now. Afghanistan debacle, right? Right? So I'm on the committee, we do investigations. We said, we want to know who came here. So they wouldn't, but what I'm going to tell you, I was only told in a classified setting. Right? So they wouldn't tell us any of this information except in a classified setting. So here's how it goes. I said, how many people came? 79,000. How'd you decide who? Who was at the airport? How many American citizens? 5,000. How many people with special visas? 2,000. Do you know who the other people are? No idea. Have you interviewed them? No. Do they have American IDs? Yes. Can they stay here? Yes. Do you know where they are in America? No way. I said, is there anything you're telling me that's classified? No. You know why? They didn't want any cameras. I don't get it. I don't get why they're doing what they're doing, but it's intentional. And so what we've got to make sure we do is we've got to elect people, okay, that care about the issues that you're bringing up. I mean, everybody wants you to, let's don't worry about those issues. Let's worry about something else that's never going to impact your life. And then when people get elected, hold them accountable. So it makes you mad about the fentanyl.
Donna Wagner has a question for you. Donna's our immediate past president of our club.
Hi, Donna.
So much for all that you are doing and have done for us. You listed the countries, China, Russia, Iran. You listed the countries, China, Russia, Iran, and so on, our enemies. And you said the way that we can protect ourselves is to have a strong military. Yet our military is being depleted. What are we going to do about it, and what can we do about it?
Well, number one is you got to quit electing people like Joe Biden. Okay? I mean, so think about this. If you look at all of his budget proposals, is to cut our military. I mean, he doesn't believe in our military. And then I'm on the committee. I look at all the amendments that we have to deal with on the National Defense Authorization Act. It's not about the military. It's about some woke issue. It's not. So, and then we've got to do is we got to promote our military. You can never go back to what it was like in Vietnam. I mean, enlistments are down. Why? Who wants to go to some place that's woke? I mean, Milley came and testified right after Trump lost, and I said, General Milley, I said, you gave interviews to 3 books they're writing about the last president as a sitting chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he still was chairman, and he still is. I said, I looked at your job description. I said, I didn't find that in your job description. I said, what are you doing? He said, well, I think we ought to, talk about, stuff. I said, you put criterion for the last president. How's the new president doing? We've got to stop these people from having these jobs. We have to have higher expectations, and we have to put way more effort into what we're trying to do. I'm talking to the choir right now, but everybody has to say to themselves, everybody thinks about all these elections is all about money. No, it's about votes. It's all about votes. It's about what you guys do for a living. You get votes, right? And so what we've got to do is we have to go win elections. And then when we win, don't blink. Don't cave in to this crazy stuff. In the Senate, guess what? We're in the people business. Okay, I think it's like 1,100 people that have to be confirmed, including the military. What are we doing? Stop confirming them. Interview them. This is our government, not theirs. So if we want, we got to say, I want our military to be that all those countries are scared to death of us. That's what they should be, scared to death of us. Are they? You listen to Xi, he's not right now. So, and by the way, if we don't provide our military the support, is it fair to put them in harm's way? No. If your child or your grandchild or your spouse is in the military, don't you want to make sure you have all the resources? Think about how we're spending money in this country. And by the way, this debt that we have right now, it's staggering. When you look at $31 trillion worth of debt, our interest expense is going to will surpass our military spending. That's not sustainable.
I saw another question over here. Elaine Leopard.
Good afternoon, Senator. My name's Elaine Leppert. Can you tell us, in your opinion, what lessons you think we as Republicans should take from this past week's election?
So I think here's the way I look at it. One, we had good candidates. If you look at the quality of our candidates, we had good candidates. Take a guy like Dr. Oz, world-renowned heart surgeon, top healthcare talk show host in the world. He's not a bad candidate. He's a good candidate. J.D. Vance, I mean, they did a movie about the guy's life. All right? So we had good candidates. I think what we have to do is we have to make sure we tell people what we're going to do when we win. So I put out a plan, but I think, and it doesn't have to be my ideas, but I think what we've got to be clear about is why vote for us? When I ran, in 2010, this economy, we had lost 800,000 jobs in 4 years. People forget it. In 2010, more people left the state than moved in. In 2010, we had 1.1 million homes in foreclosure. In 2010, home prices have dropped by 50% in 4 years. In 2010, we were raising tuition 15% a year. In 2010, we were going in default on our debt. I ran on a plan of change the economy. We've got to be known for what we're going to do. Like right now, we've got to be known. One of the biggest issues, probably the biggest right now in this country, is inflation. What's our plan? We've got to be way more specific about what we're going to do. What are we going to do to get rid of wokeness in schools? What are we going to do to make sure military is lethal, not woke? So we got to be way more specific with our ideas. So, and I mean, I think we need to be doing what Newt did. Newt gave people a reason to vote in 1994. We should have had an unbelievable election.
Hi, there's a question over here. I don't know your name. Dana.
I did Dana Bash the other day, and I had to practice for a half hour saying Dana, not Dana.
Push it up.
I can hear you. I'll repeat it. Here, you can tell it to me. I'll repeat it.
So, on a lighter note, I'm very interested in your 10 nominations to serve as academies, and I wondered if you talk about the composition, race, ethnicity, are they children of immigrants, the gender, and then secondly, I'd like to know, was it a who, a what, or where that got you from living in public housing to, being determined to succeed?
Yeah. So here's the way that I'll just tell you. If you know of anybody that's interested in a nomination, make sure you get a hold of Aaron. But here's the way it works. I put together, so each of the branches, they have standards. So if you don't have a certain GPA, things like that, I can like you a lot, and I can possibly even nominate you. You're not going anywhere. So first thing you have to do, you have to meet these standards. We had 400 people apply, I think, this time, which was actually down a little bit. So we have panels that do all the interviews, and what they're trying to do is find the most competent people, and so it's about 30. Aaron knows the numbers. I just went through it. It's about 30% of them are female. About 25% are minorities. Was it higher? Yeah. Yeah, minorities. And then there was quite a few that were first-generation Americans. It's Florida, right? So you have a lot more probably than other states. You have first-generation Americans. So we had quite a bit from Miami that were first-generation Americans. So but it's an impressive crowd. And we put all that stuff out. So we put it all out. But if you know anybody, and I think my 11-year-old grandson will want to go to Academy. So I just bought a book for him yesterday on how to go to the Academy. So I mean, I didn't know any of this stuff. I mean, did you guys grow up knowing anybody? I mean, I never met I met one person that was I grew up mostly in Kansas City, Missouri. I knew one person that was in the house. The only reason I knew is because my mom made me pass out pamphlets for him when he was running. And other than that, I didn't meet anybody. No one told me here's how, these programs and stuff like that. So I try to talk about them. The question is, how did I get here? I don't know. By the grace of God. How did I get here? I had a tough as nails mom. I mean, I remember growing up, I thought, God, what a pain in the butt. I mean, that's how I thought about my mom. I mean, this is a lady that said, you're going to go to church all the time. We grew up in the Methodist church. I went to church all the time. I said, Mom, nobody goes to church this much. She said, you're going to make straight A's. I have a yardstick if you don't. She said, you're going to be an Eagle Scout. And she said, go make some money because we're broke. And so I was making more money by second grade than any kid on my street. And I figured out that was better than not having money, right? I was selling TV guides when they used to sell them door to door. Think about how different the world is. I'm a kid that lived in public housing, walked to school by myself at 4 years old, and nothing ever happened to me. Think about the difference, okay? I'm a kid that in second grade was selling TV guides, light bulbs, whatever I could do to go to Boy Scout camp after dark in not a nice neighborhood. But it was in a dangerous neighborhood, right? You wouldn't let your kid, my daughters had a totally different life, right, than what I grew up in. So I think my mom, one, she told me, I think what most people told their kids back then. I don't care if you're rich or poor. They all said the same thing. You can be anything you want because you live in the United States of America, but it's up to you. Go work hard. Go study hard. Get to work. Everybody I knew worked in high school. In this job, it's fun. You get to meet a lot of people. And so there was the high school group. I can't remember. They come up to see us. And so I told, these were all like sophomores. I said, go get a job. Go get a job where you make some money, where somebody's responsible. You have to do well or you're not going to keep your job. I said, that was the best thing that happened to me. I mean, I got paid. Think about how I had these crummy jobs that were great for me. I got paid a penny a paper to deliver papers out of the back of a Volkswagen bus. You would never sit in the back of a Volkswagen bus and throw out papers today. I mean, your parents would go to jail. I got paid 85 cents an hour to be a fry cook at a place that was cheaper than McDonald's, okay? When I got my first job at the grocery store, they were paying me $1.61 an hour, a union job, $1.61 an hour, right? But all those things were great for me. So, and then the Navy was unbelievable. I got the GI Bill. My wife clearly married me for my money. So I was making, when I went in, I don't know what you started out, I was making $144. Nixon raised our compensation in 72. I went in September 71. He raised our compensation. He doubled at the lower level. So I got married in April of 72. I was making $320 a month. The apartment cost $250. Ann got a job making $75 a week as a legal secretary because she hadn't finished college either. And so I don't know why she married me. You look back at it. But I think it was just a country where we were told talk about opportunities. There's a book out. Phil Graham writes some really good stuff. I don't know if you read any of his stuff. He used to be senator from Texas. The bottom 20% of this country today, off of government programs, makes as much money as the next 20%. See, this will be off a little bit, but in 1965, the bottom 20%, 70% of them had jobs. Today, 30-some%. Think of what we're doing. Would you tell your child that, hey, here's a government program, or here's a program you shouldn't work, knowing you don't have enough money to do it forever, knowing that's not good for them. That's what our government's doing to us. I'll tell you why we're going to win if we do our job. I do a lot of, in this job, I'll finish my job as soon as we win in Georgia, but at the Senate committee. But so in this job, I had the resources to put polls out. I've won the Hispanic vote, okay? To put it in perspective, in 2010, I won the Hispanic vote. 2 years later, Romney ran for president. In 2012, in Florida, he got 28%. Then I won the Hispanic vote in 14 and 18. If we don't win the Hispanic vote, it's our fault. If we don't win the immigrant vote, it's our fault. I'll give you an example. Hispanics nationwide, this is a year ago, 89% of Hispanics are fed up with the public school system. Their kids aren't going to private schools. 60% of Hispanics believe government is making their kids dependent, and they don't like it. 60%. Hispanics, Asians, the entire immigrant community, they don't want the government handouts. The country doesn't. But we have to go explain why we care about them. I remember, I'll tell you one last story. When so I had to do these debates. I'm a business guy, so everybody thinks business guys are heartless, right? And we don't care about anybody. That's how we get customers, right? So stupid. But anyway, so I did do these 3 debates in the primary, 3 debates in the general. And so how I thought about it is, if you can't explain why you care about people, then that's your problem, not theirs. That's what we have to do. Why is it better for people to work than to be on a government dole? Why is it better for you to be able to afford to buy your own house rather than go in public housing? Why is it better for you not to be on food stamps because you can afford to live on your own? Because it's better for you. Everybody's better. So that's what we have to do. What else? That it?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you. Senator has been very generous with his time with us today. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to have another announcement. Senator Scott's aide, Aaron Deaver, is going to come up and tell you about a program from the Sheriff's Office. Yeah.
So impromptu, I have nothing planned, but I am a volunteer for the Sheriff's Office, and I spent 10 years with them. You can't hear me? Well, that's because my senator's a buzz around the room. So the Sheriff's Office, every year, they work in conjunction with the Drug-Free Collier program and the Drug Court with Janice Martin, Judge Janice Martin. She does a wonderful job with the drug court. And what they do is they ask that those annoying calendars that you get mailed to you every December and November and sometimes early January, that you donate them to the Sheriff's Office. And that is for the recent and current participants in the drug court program so that they can help get their lives together and have a planner to plan their lives and keep on track. So if anybody, while you're getting all of those wonderful calendars that people give you, I know a lot of you in this room probably make donations to some beautiful charities, and they thank you with those calendars. Sometimes you have too many and you don't know what to do with. You can donate them to the Sheriff's Office and to drug court to Judge Janice Martin. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. All right, we have something very special in conclusion. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.